Well, good Monday morning, and it is time for our meaningful Monday morning conversations. And this week, guys, what we're going to be talking about is a topic that's been a pretty hot topic in the horse industry. And I want to discuss that and open it up and kind of peel the onion back on that this morning, because the quote specifically deals with horses, but it says it actually speaks to a much deeper level in how we live everyday life. And it's a meaningful Monday morning conversation. So we're going to peel it back and we're going to look at the meaning that truly exists within this quote that's been floating around this last week. And for those of you guys that are new, my name is Colton Woods. I'm your host here on the Heart of Horsemanship podcast. And one thing I'm going to mention this morning is that in our Facebook group this week, I opened up a bit of a conversation with everybody. And if you're not in there, I'd love for you to go click the link, whether it's in the show notes or down below this video, and join us in the Facebook group, because we're going to be rebranding and renaming the podcast. And as we do this, we want to keep the heart in the heart of horsemanship per se, that what this podcast stands for, but we're going to be searching for a new name and those types of things. And so if you're driving, if you're riding, if you're cleaning stalls and you've got an idea, if you've listened to this podcast for a while and you're pretty familiar with it and you're like, oh man, this would be a great name, please go into the Facebook group and share it with me. Because ultimately I feel like this is y'all's podcast. I feel like it's because we create it for you, and we always want to make sure that the name resonates. It also has to be easily defined for folks. And so we want to try to keep it to 3 words and those types of things. But I really do feel like this podcast is your podcast. It's not necessarily my podcast. It's just something that I have the opportunity to do, and I'm really thankful for y'all's listening ear. But I like to go to you guys when these types of things on the business side pops up, because we create them for you. So with that being said, let's get into the meat and the potatoes per se of our conversation this morning. The way that this quote is set up, it's actually from Buck Brannaman, and it's at a clinic setting, and he's having a conversation apparently with someone brought up an issue within the clinic, and he just says, regarding the idea that good training will hold on a horse regardless of who buys it, when someone tells me they want a push button horse, I say, you might as well go buy yourself some fairy dust. You'll bring that horse down to your level in no time. And that quote has been floating around quite a bit. This is actually something that we've dealt with training horses over the years, as well as with sales horses over the years from time to time. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, one of the things that we try to do within our training program is we make sure that we educate the horses in a way that they are prepared to go home and take that with them, right? One of the biggest issues that we've had in this particular instance with horses falling to the level of the human is when the people don't get involved, right? When the people don't actually come and work with their horse and ride their horse and learn the program, then it's like, I always equate it to taking a convict, right? Someone goes out and commits a crime, and they're involved in dealing drugs, and then they go to prison where they don't have access to do that per se, right? So they get on the straight and narrow, maybe they get their GED, they get some more education, they have a peer support group, they have a better vision for life, they have a better way of living on a day-to-day basis, and then they get released and they go back to the same home, they go back to the same environment, right, that they came from, because that's where their home is. That's where they're going to go. And what do you expect to have happen, right? Very few people are able to then still move forward and be successful in that environment, because that environment shapes who they are. And when we take our horses from like a training environment or from a positive environment, and then you take them into a different environment and say a human is having an issue with a horse, they send the horse into training, the training works, the horse is going really well, and then the horse goes back to the same environment, the human hasn't made any changes, the environment with it that the horse is living in hasn't changed at all. What do you think is going to happen? The horse is going to go back to the way they were, right? And so this gets to the deeper point, whether it's with our horses and in our own lives, which is we are either rising above or we're falling behind. Okay. We're either getting better or we're getting worse, right? There is no in between. Like, there is this lie that we like to tell ourselves that, well, I'm in this place and I'm happy where I'm at. I'm really happy where my horse is at. So I'm just not going to do anything right now. I'm going to let everything kind of stay the same. And we're just going to stay right where we're at because I'm happy where I'm at. And that's not how it works, right? If you're happy with where your horse is at, if you're happy with where you're at in your life right now, just to stay where you're at right now requires maintenance, right? And maintenance is work. Maintenance, you have to know how to do maintenance. You have to know how to do the right maintenance at the right time. And there's no just staying where we're at. And you can take this into so many facets in our life because things are always changing. Things are always changing, whether that's in the barn environment, whether that's in the business environment, whether that's in our health, whether it's in the day-to-day life that we live and everything that's going on in the world. Things are always changing. And we have to make sure that we are doing the work that is necessary to either maintain where we're at or to keep moving ahead, right? And heck, this is going to get a little morbid, but this is what just came to mind, which is you look at people that particularly that retire and they've been active their whole life, and they've been working and doing the things and raising the kids, and then the kids leave and they're enjoying time with their spouse or their significant other, and they're doing all these things, and then they hit a point to where they're like, I'm just going to stay at home and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to do a whole lot, right? And at that point, what are they doing? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Are they rising above? Are they falling behind? Well, they're dying, right? When we quit moving, when we quit doing the activities that is necessary to sustain a healthy lifestyle, we start going backwards. And of course, like, there comes a certain point in your life where you're kind of quote unquote over the hill and things are kind of going backwards per se in certain areas. But we look at other people that have a longer longevity, they have a sharper mind, they have a better physical health, and it's that they keep moving, they keep doing the work. They keep doing the things that keep their mind sharp, they keep their body healthy, right? They keep moving, they keep thinking, they keep interacting with friends, they keep socializing. And the point is that you have to stay active. You have to stay active, and you can't just stay active being active, right? It's staying active doing the right things at the right time. Finding, I'm not even going to say a healthy balance, it's finding what works for you. There's, balance, I think, is a bullshit terminology these days, because there's times where what it takes is not balance. It just takes what it takes to be successful, whether that's in the horsemanship, in your life, in your finances. Sometimes things have to get out of balance so that you can get the job done of whatever it is. But when we look at the idea, we boil this down from a horsemanship point that someone wants to buy a horse that's push button and they just want that horse to stay the same. It doesn't stay the same, because if you don't have the ability to do the right maintenance at the right time with that horse and to structure that horse's life, everything from how it's handled on a day-to-day basis, the nutrition program that it has, how you interact with that horse when you're leading it to and from the paddock, how you interact with the horse when you're riding it, and making sure that when you are even working with that horse, that the structure of the weekly and monthly, what you're doing with that horse over perhaps a little bit of a larger time period, actually meets the needs of that horse, so that you're doing the effective quote unquote maintenance to keep that horse a push button horse, right? And not just anybody can go do that, right? You can get tremendously good at it, and a lot of people can do this with their own horses. You don't have to be a professional to do the maintenance, right? You just have to have the skills and the knowledge and the understanding to do those things, to maintain those things. And it takes time to learn that. But the idea that you can just go out and, perhaps buy a horse like this, it's like, go buy a damn motorbike. But guess what? With a motorbike, what you're gonna have to do? You're still gonna have to change the oil. You're still gonna have to make sure the tires aren't dry rotted. You're still gonna have to check this and that on the motorbike, right? It's gonna be a lot less maintenance than a horse. And it's going to be a lot less volatile than a horse, because you can park that motorcycle for a while off to the side and nothing's really going to happen to it. You can still go out there and crank. Maybe the battery's dead and you got to jump it off. right? But for the most part, versus on a horse side of things, like if you just stick it in the stall, it'll do a whole lot, it'll die, right? Or it'll get emotionally upset, right? Because it has a lack of socialization because it's just locked in a stall, it doesn't see its friends. What do you think's going to happen, right? There's so many things that, like with these horses, they have their own minds, they have their own thoughts, their emotions, they have their own physical needs, they have even, down the lines, they have their own soul and spirit, and it's like all those things need to be tended to, and it's our responsibility because we brought them into our own life. And when we acknowledge the fact that there is no just staying the same, so we need to look at our actions on a day-to-day basis. What are we doing on a day-to-day basis? And is that moving us forward, or are our actions causing us to fall behind? And I like to break this down into multiple areas, whether it's my personal physical fitness, whether it's the relationships with my family, the relationship with my wife, the relationships with my kids, right? Are those getting better, or are they getting worse? Okay. And I can look at each individual horse. I can look at it for my horse business. We have multiple ones of those. I can look at each one of those. We can look at our personal finances. And I like to break these things down and really isolate, are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Okay. If they're falling behind, why are they falling behind? And if they're falling behind and they're falling behind because I don't have the time to put into it, then I have to just acknowledge that that is what it is. And that I'm going to have to go in and do some maintenance and do some catching up at some point. But at least I'm being honest and objective about where I'm at with it. Because frankly, one of the biggest journeys is to get rid of the things that aren't serving us, and to not do the things, and to acknowledge the fact that you can't do everything. You can't manage a ton of things all at the same time really, 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 really well. Sometimes it's about eliminating the things that you don't need in your life so that you can focus on the things that do matter and the things that you do have influence over, and understanding that there's going to be ebbs and flows to this. And it's not like everything's going to always be moving forward, right? That's not life. We would love for everything to always be moving forward, but there's going to be times where you're focused on 2 or 3 things and those things are moving forward and other things aren't quite getting as much attention. But at least be aware of what's going on over there, because there might become a point where, like, hey, that's falling too far behind. We need to take a little bit of this energy and effort and focus from over here and then redirect it to catch this back up. And that just, that happens in so many different areas of our life with this. And I think that as I've seen this quote going around about, horses falling to the level of people, that as a horse professional, we've seen this happen. And it's extremely frustrating because you put your heart, you put your soul, you put your blood, sweat, time, and energy and finances into helping these horses succeed. And ultimately, if it's a training horse and I know somebody else owns the horse, it's that other human's responsibility to do the work that actually is not just do the work, but do the right work at the right time in the right way. And if they don't know how to do that, to go get their knowledge, and go invest in their knowledge and be able to develop the skill sets that's necessary, right? Because otherwise, like as Buck put it, right, you better go get some damn fairy dust, because that's the only way you're going to make it happen. If you're not willing to put the work in, and obviously that's just not a thing, and it's not going to happen. And so we can take this and break it down in every aspect of our lives and just realize that we're in control, right? I know a lot of this has been like, do the work or fall behind, but it's like the empowering part behind this that I want to make sure I hit on right as we wrap this up is that you're in control. You are in control of your life every day. And there's certain things that you're in control of and there's certain things that you aren't, but you're in control of the decisions that you make every single day. And those decisions today will build the life that you want to have. It'll build the relationship with the horse that you want to have. It'll build the skill sets that you want to have with your horse. It'll build the future that you want to have, right? But if you neglect making the decisions that you need to make, and you avoid making decisions, or you just aren't taking the time, effort, energy to actually figure out what decisions you need to be making, time is still passing and you are still paving the road to the future life that you will live. And I heard a quote along the lines the other day of, what you have today is a direct reflection of what you were doing 5 years ago. Okay. And whether it's 5 years ago or 6 months ago or 10 years ago, it doesn't really matter. It's just what the decisions and actions that you took in the past have directly created the life that you're living today. And when you understand that that is the case, right? And it's the same thing with our horses, right? Like the decisions and actions that you took in the past have created the horse that you have today. But if you change the decisions and you change the actions that you have today, or you keep building on the decisions and actions, if you're happy with where you're at, that you can continue building a better and brighter future as you go on forward. And so it is in your control. One thing I'm really big on is acknowledge, like, what are the things that do serve you? What are the things that don't serve you? And get rid of the things that don't serve you. What are the things you don't have influence over, that you cannot control? Stop worrying about those, right? But you have to acknowledge, like, I don't have control over the person that cut me off in traffic. I don't have control over certain things. But the things that I do have control over, I manage those. I'm aware of those. And I can make critical decisions around the things that I am in control of. And you got to let go of the things that you don't have control of, other people's emotions, what other people say, what other people do, right? Those are huge things that every one of us deals with on a daily basis. But when you realize that you don't have control of those things, you can kind of let go and go, hey, I'll never go out of my way. I don't want to make people feel bad. I don't want to make people upset. Sometimes people get upset, and that's their deal. That's their emotional reaction to the situation, and so, guys, as I said, I wrapped this up 2.5 minutes ago. Look at the things that you have control over. Look at the things that you have influence over, and take this simple quote that Buck shared with us. And I hope that this opened your eyes and hopefully opened up some thoughts, and maybe even has you looking at the decisions and actions that you're taking in these different areas of your life so that you can build the future that you want. It's in your control. You got the reins in your hands, right? And you can go chase those goals that are big, scary, and exciting goals. That's what I tell my students in our business mentorship program is, your goals should be big, scary, and exciting all at the same time. If that's the feeling that you get when you talk about your goals, you're probably on the right track. So guys, my name's Colton Woods. Hope you enjoyed our meaningful Monday morning conversation this morning. I hope you have an amazing, amazing, amazing week, and we'll talk to you later this week on the next episode.